like a peace conversation. And, you know, we got Kenyans to see what happened because there was a media blackout and all that kind of thing. So when we saw the power that that had, we said, what if we started a place where people can come together and collaborate and do projects and work together and do stuff that, you know, is transformational, like what we felt that street exhibition did. So then we started Power 254. We thought initially it would probably be just photographers and visual artists, but very fast it got a life of its own. And we had all kinds of artists coming and, you know, finding each other, like photographer to photographer, graffiti artist to graffiti artist, musicians to musicians, spoken word artist to another, authors, writers, you know. It became quite amazing to just see that kind of thing come up together, and how people were able to start working together and see things differently, and add to each other's kind of things that they were doing.
Yeah, power is really magical. I've been to power, and I think a power hosted us once many moons ago when we were starting our
Many
own
moons ago.
Many moons ago. This is how long we've been here. When we were starting our own organizations. It's a very magical place, and I could see and feel the heart of the work that you all put together.
Thank you.
Another thing that you are is an activist.
Yes.
You know, and a journalist in your own right.
And a journalist.
And I think many people were surprised, particularly on the journalist aspect, when they watched your stellar work on BBC, and everybody was like, oh my God, is that Njeri? But I was like, why not Njeri, you know?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your activism, what your activism means for you, and then about just your journalism. Because we don't see much of that.
Yeah.
Where do you hide such wonderful talent?
I think a lot is not said about a lot of people.
Yeah.
I believe there's a lot of people doing so many incredible things out there, but the light is out on very few people. So it looks like other people are not doing much. So for me as an activist, I think because my husband has always been in the forefront,
Right.
it does not look like people have asked, who is he married to? What does she do? And he's married to me.
For those who didn't know.
And this is what we do. But it's not for a living in the sense of work.
Yes.
It's for a living in the sense that our lives depend on it.
True.
You know, the well-being of this country, our lives depend on it. The future of our children, how we age in this country depends on a lot of things about the state of the nation. So we have put out a lot of work to try and get things to be the way they should be. And it's a work in progress. We have won some, we have lost a lot. And when we lose, it's not just us as a family that lose. We lose as a country.
Yes.
And the sad thing is we need Kenyans to own these problems and find solutions. I believe solutions are not with the government 100%. The solutions are within us, because we are the people that run these organizations. We're the people that are employed to do some of these things. We're the people in procurement. We're the people who are in the accounts, who are supposed to lay down some of these resources that are brought. Yet that's not government, that's me, that's you, that's you. We work in these offices. So why do we keep saying that the government, you know, we're so, and yes, we do point at the government because they have a huge part and a huge work to do as far as, you know, nation building is concerned.
Yes.
But so for me, I think I'd say where my activism is talking to people, these small conversations with people about us, pointing back the finger at us. I want us to see where we are at. But I also want it to be done at the same time that the government is being called out.
Right.
So that we are moving together. So that we're not just pointing at government and saying government should do, but we are also saying that we ought to do. So what is this that we're supposed to do? Can we find our place?
Yes.
Can we vote right? Can we support our leaders? Can we insist on knowing who our leaders are, where they are, what they're supposed to do?
Yes.
What is my civic responsibility?
Yes.
Right?
As a Kenyan.
What is my responsibility?
Right.
So that by the time I'm going to talk to my MCA or my senator or my MP or the governor or even the president, I'm doing my part and I'm stuck because the government has not done its part. Yeah.
Got it. Makes sense. And I agree in the collective responsibility in trying to change systems and the fact that I think we fail every time when we assume that it's going to be either government alone or either individuals alone or either activists alone. So figuring out a good and it's a very politically correct term, good medium,
Yeah.
where we can all meet and figure
Yeah.
out what to do.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now we know that you're a dancer. We know that you're a journalist. We know that you're an activist.
Yes.
We know that you're a mommy. We know that you are a co-founder of Power 254. Out of all of these relationships that have defined you, is there a part where you exist out of all of this? And who is that person? If they exist even, you know? So who are you out of those many relationships? So the people who see you and say, oh, that's activist, that journalist, that co-founder of Power 254, you know, out of all of that.
I think when I go, my life, the last, I would say, half of my life literally has really transformed. And I have worn many hats and I've been called by many names. But when I learned that I can walk away from all those and be with myself.
Right.
And then when I get out, I still have to take on these roles and responsibilities. I think for me, that was a very powerful moment because I don't have to be responsible for all those titles, all those expectations.
Yes.
And I try very much to find those moments, even daily, where I'm not a mom, I'm not a wife, I'm not a director of, I'm not an activist, I'm just responsible for me. So finding moments where I'll just do what I like to do, whether it's to watch a movie, whether it's to write. I actually do enjoy writing, but my writing is in my journal, personal journal.
In your corner.
In mine. I have a special relationship with my journal.
Yes.
So in my journal, or even taking long showers, going for a run, going for a walk,
Yes.
soaking in a bath, and then taking a ride. I just get on my motorbike and just go meeting with friends. And I just sit in the crowd and I'm one of us, you know. There's conversation about anything and everything going around.
Yes.
And I am a part of them or not,
Yes.
but I'm hearing other people's voices, having meaningful conversations or not. And it's okay, you know, because after that moment is done, I go back and I have to be all these
the other
roles
things all over
or
again.
whatever role is required of me when I get to where it is being called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it. Makes sense. It's good to escape. I love long showers.
Yes.
I wish I could ride. Useless.
You have
I
no
wish
idea
I
what
could,
you're
but
missing.
you know you're a beast. You literally are a beast on the road. Anywho, good. Now that we can jump onto something else that you do, which is part of your work as well. So this is one of the titles that you hold. So as you know, we live in a country where women in public life are seen to be accessory cheerleaders, basically flower girls, you know, to more powerful men, more affluent men, more charismatic men. And there's a phrase used, and we're all called flower girls of XXX, you know, which is a way of minimizing and infantilizing women and basically just making them invisible, you know. Our political class seem to think that our constitutional mandate for two-third representation as a minor inconvenience, because they just think, and I think it was recently that one of the MPs was saying, we shouldn't force Kenyans with an unachievable goal of two-thirds, that leadership has no gender, yet we only see one gender dominating.
Wow.
So what do you think are some of the ways we can push back against this women as accessory narrative? And have you pushed back in your life?
Wow. That's a deep question. I think, I don't know about pushing back. I feel like we just need to be occupying spaces and doing what we need to do.
Right.
Because when we are trying to push back, that means we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're trying to prove a point that no, we should be, and it's necessary and it makes sense. Which is a sad reality that yes, the women have not been allowed into spaces because we are flower girls,
Yes.
you know, because we don't have much to contribute to different conversations.
Right.
I was at a construction site some time back and I asked a few questions and it was all men. I just happened to be there. And I asked about the windows and I tried to say, I think it would be, the room would look different if this was done.
Yeah.
And they looked at me and said, no, it doesn't make sense. Then I was like, no, but it does, because I'm like, if it does, especially because you don't think it makes sense.
Yeah.
This is a house that is being built that will have a woman in, or that will have girls that will live in it.
Yes.
And if it makes sense to me, it probably will make sense to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then they considered it, and then they went on with their talk, because anyway, that's what they were doing. And it made me think about, I really wanted to make my point at that moment.
Yes.
Because I wanted that suggestion to be considered, because it makes a difference in the final outlook of the house.
Absolutely.
Right? And so when you think about, even the men have created this position where they are the ones calling us flower girls. You're not calling me a flower girl.
Right.
Right? I'm not calling you a flower girl. Whoever your father is, whoever your husband is, we as women shouldn't be calling ourselves that. But mostly it's the men that do, and make us seem and appear as though we are just there to, as
aesthetic.
Yes, we're an extra, we're another one of their achievements. Yeah. And it belittles whatever contribution we bring into the society.
True.
Which is terrible, because then a lot of things are left out, because women's thoughts, women's ideas, women's considerations, women's point of view is not in that space.
Yeah.
Right? When you look at, we were talking about a car, the way a car is made, if there were women, as many women as there were men in the making of that car, there would be a place where I would put my handbag.
This is true.
There would be a place where I would slip my shoes into. There would be a place where, at the back, because I have children, I would be able to put their toys, maybe a little trash bag.
Agreed.
Because that's what my contribution is to this car.
Agreed.
Yes, we have cars, we use them as they are. Yeah. But if I was to make a car, there are a few things I would change.
Yeah, there's a lens you would have that a man would not have. You're very right.
Yeah. So even in building a home, in as much as most of this are done by men, the architects are men, the people who lay the stones are men, women need to get into these spaces. Yeah. And then we need to stop making it look like, hey, imagine Njeri ride bike. Like, why can't she? Imagine Njeri aliride bike mpaka Rwanda. Why can't she?
Njeri's a beast.
Yeah, she's a beast, but there are so many other beasts. Like, there are so many women that have broken the glass ceilings and are doing amazing things. But then it brings me to think that even we who are termed flower girls at some point, the men that we are with have also upheld us in that regard. Yeah, when they talk about their achievements, you would think they have brought themselves to this moment and they have reached where they have reached
by God's grace alone.
By themselves. Like, no, my wife didn't support me, my mother, my sisters, my children. Yet, when you think about it, even when you look at it, even when you go there, you find that they have been fully supported by these women.
Cushioned by women.
Yes, they are upheld by women. Fine, they'll go and make those deals with other men. But we create spaces for them to be able to exist the way they want to.
Agreed.
Yeah, we hold space so that we make a home, so that they're able to say, I have a home. If I wasn't taking care of this home, ataambia watu nini?
Yeah.
If their children were crooked and mannerless and all these things, they would not be proud to say, they would not be talking about their families.
This is true.
Yeah. But this is
the children
what we
belong
do.
to the mother. Yeah. If they're badly behaved, they'll be yours.
Yeah. And he will not mention it unless someone says, isn't that your son? And then like, his stories will talk happy.
That one belongs to the mother.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I think we need to start appreciating and acknowledging every time you see a successful man. Imagine there could be a woman who is more successful, but because her tasks, her responsibilities, or her contributions are seen as menial,
intangible.
And, you can't put money on it. Like, everyone does that. What's the big deal?
Yes.
Even these men, everyone does that. But for them, it's a big deal because they're the ones, they own the media. They're the ones who are get more paid, highly paid.
Yes.
So even our contribution is just downplayed.
I see.
Yeah.
You've made very many wonderful points. One is just reminding me that a friend of mine and myself, we went to look for a house, and the kitchen we were being the selling point of the house was how The kitchen was just new, remodeled, state-of-the-art appliances and things. And then we walked into the kitchen, and the drawers were at the bottom of the entire cabinet. Literally, drawers where you put utensils and everything were at the bottom, right? And then we asked this man, because I looked at him and I asked him, what is this a new design? What's happening? And then he said, no, the men who were doing it were efficient and wonderful. They did it in a week. So you've made so much sense in terms of the lens you bring. And I think it's the lens that women bring everywhere. Yeah. It's in the homes, it's in the way construction is done, it's in the way decisions are made, it's in the way things are built, and things that are built for all genders, but they're built with one lens, the male lens. Yes. I think it's such a fundamental thing, and that women's labor still becomes and exists as intangible and quantifiable, even as unappreciated, right? Even when we know that without women doing this labor, men cannot do what they do in the world freely, right? Wow. Problems that we have to solve, I guess. Final question on this. What are some of the ways you think women can live political lives in this country, our country, Kenya, can be political actors and be seen as such? So the personal is political. Remember how it is always, when a woman comes into politics, everything that is personal about your life becomes political fodder. It's used against you. So how can we live in countries that still put women in these spaces? And particularly feminists having asserted that we don't need to make the personal political for women to participate. It is a strategy used to get women out of these spaces, even though we know women need to be in these spaces. So then how do we make better connections as women in these spaces of politics? How do we maybe just protect ourselves? How do we maybe just ensure we thrive? Because clearly we know we are not wanted, like from the get-go. Some thoughts, just thoughts around how we can just...
Amazing cities, countries even, have been built on desert, And I think in as much as we need to, the women in those spaces, if they refuse, we can create our own spaces.
I love it.
Because we are more in this country, in this world, I think,
we are
than the men.
In Kenya, we are the majority gender.
Exactly.
And population,
so, if we started having conversations that are centered around women, and something like this, it's conversations that women are interested in, that women can see themselves, they can hear themselves, then they would be more interested in those conversations because they mean more to them. Absolutely. They can relate. The reason we don't even watch TVs, the reason why we don't get into politics is because it has been made such a man space, right? That for me to get in there, I need to lose my femininity. I need to wear a hard skin. I need to do what? I need to wear pants. I need to sound like. I need to be brazen and careless about. I'm like, no, me, I'm a woman. I'm not going to be hard. I'm going to be gentle. I'm going to be soft. I'm going to be tender. I will cry if I feel like, when I feel like, because I have PMS. Right?
Agreed.
Men will have no clue. They don't know what PMS is. They've heard about it. But because I start crying in a meeting, if I will say, see, we take a break.
You've become too emotional.
Sukunywe maji. Let's take a break. Then, and women will understand it. It's not a big deal. Even I will catch myself and say, I needed that break. Where were we? Right? And then we just take it on without feeling like I need to go home. What was that? So we need to find ways that we are not fighting with the men, but we are creating content and conversations that matter to women.
Right.
When you think about even what time we watch news, because every time, my father has always watched news 7 and 9 p.m. religiously. And it was very confusing for him when there was many stations. He used to sit and just watch KTN. When it was, I think it was a K62, like a sign like that, from back then.
Right.
When all these other stations came, he's like, no, which one do I watch? And he'll flip from one to another. But when you look at the time that it was, my mother could never watch news.
Yes.
Because it was the time that we were supposed to have been doing our homeworks.
Yes.
It was the time that she was supposed to be ensuring we are ready for school for tomorrow. You know, dinner is made. You know, she has to charge things.
There's so much movement in the home at 9.
Why are you watching news even at 7? At 9, have you finished your food? Are the dishes done? Have you showered? What else do you need? Everything is sorted?
Right.
By the time she's sitting down like this,
it's 10:30, 11:30.
The content that she could have watched is not of interest to her.
Yes.
And what could have been is a soap opera, which she will fall asleep watching because she's so tired. Dog tired.
Yeah.
So even when you think about the timings of some of these things, the things that should be important that we would be involved in, even this politics, even this news, knowing what's going on in our country, even the way the news is structured, then you know that if there were more women in that space, the content in the news would have changed.
Absolutely.
News is about men, is for men, is by men. If there was women, cut it up, or 50%.
Yes.
50% men, 50% women. What do women want to hear in the news?
Right.
I'll tell you, because I'm a woman. So we would do a whole list of what women would want to hear about. We see how the uptake would be, how it would be felt, how people would relate with it, because that's why women are just left behind on so many things. That's why there's no uptake of, do we want to get into politics? No, because it's so messy. And that's the way it's portrayed. Because it's just men. Like, you know, your place is not here. It is somewhere else. You find it, but it is definitely not here. So either we get into those spaces, and in masses, not at you go.
Just the exceptional.
When in Mnoma, you go, try it out, all the best. But you just know when you get in there, it's nasty.
It is.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be, right? And we as women need to also uphold each other.
Yes.
Yeah. What we say about each other, about women, we need to be holding each other up. Right? So that as we go up and pulling each other up, because out there, you're not going to make it on your own.
Truly, no one does.
Yeah, no one will.
No.
Because when you get into that territory, they will eat you whole, right?
Truly.
And then they'll spit you out.
Yeah.
Yet, when you look at a man and a woman, when we get home, both of us from work, both of us have such high demanding jobs. When we get home, the husband comes, amechoka sana. He had a very long day.
He's too tired.
Hey, knocks his shoes off. Oh my God, I wish I could. Just they knock their shoes off
and just chill.
And just let your remote. Or they catch up on their social media.
Right.
They expect there's going to be food.
Of course.
Okay. They expect to see clean children. They could help with the homework or not. Hawataki makelele, this is my downtime.
Right.
Lakini tumefika job na wewe, tumefika home na wewe, or I even came a little later. Me, I have to find out what is being cooked, if it has been cooked.
Are the windows closed before mosquitoes?
Yes.
Got into,
gosh, yes.
You know, the first time you get in and you're like, why are these windows? Why are the curtains not drawn?
Guys, windows. Yes. I even start closing them myself before I go to the kitchen, figure out all those things. But this guy, he gets to chill. He can have brilliant ideas. He can make phone calls and make some deals. Me, by the time I'm doing that, it's morning again.
Yeah.
I slept on a thought. I had a nice, brilliant, I was thinking of something, but I can't develop it because I'm so crowded with life in between there.
Right.
That these men feel like they don't have to, and it's society. So if there are men out there who you're saying that women need to be held up, how are you supporting your moms? How are you supporting your wives? How are you supporting your partners?
Yes.
Even those that you work with.
Right.
Because if you go home and put your feet up and she's supposed to cook, clean, and ensure that shopping is done, you know, steamers bills are paid on time, so you're still connected to internet, shopping is done, it's brought home, it's, you know that everything is where it should be, you're happy.
Yeah.
It is a good life. It's more than just the money, right?
Agreed.
Granted, you may be able to bring home the lion's share, or maybe we are bringing just about the same share. So we're not talking about that anymore. We can't be equal because I'm also bringing money now.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Absolutely.
But you're not bringing yourself home to where, let's cook, katakata hizo vitunguu, I'll make the whatever, I'll chop up, the work gets finished sooner, the meal is on the table faster, I am less grumpy, less tired, you know, and we can have a decent conversation. I also have some room, some space to dream, to think, to imagine.
To wind down.
Yeah.
You deserve that.
To catch up with a friend or two.
Even with yourself.
To seal a deal even.
To catch up even with yourself.
To catch up with myself.
Yeah.
I don't have to be living in this cycle. I drop because I'm so tired. And then in the morning, get up on my feet, run and do the same thing all over again. I never have time for me.
Agreed.
Yeah. So that imbalance is something that if men are not conscious and trying to help women, because even sometimes we do this so well, we've mastered how to get home, kick off our stilettos, and you know, put on the headband and wear an apron and do all that stuff. We mastered it, but we don't realize that we are never able to. We need that me time, and within that me time is when I can think of, I should write a book, I should write a film, I should start. Yes, I should take up this, I should pursue this, I should apply for this. In that me time is the time that I think up of those things. Without that me time, I'm just that, I'm like a machine.
Move through life.
I'm just doing things. You know, I'm cooking for you, and then you're saying my wife who has, you know, she's not.
All she does is cook.
Things. Yeah. She has no dreams, she has no ambitions.
But then you don't stop to actually ask.
We do.
And then you don't stop to go more than just ask and support.
Yeah.
And you don't go further to invest in what it means to support a partner who wants to pursue their dreams. Men have to be so much more deliberate about that support, because it's not just me saying, this is what I would want to do. The way society functions, it doesn't favor me in any way to get to that space. So men at workplaces, at homes, fathers, husbands, partners, they need to enable and create those spaces that help women to see you need me time. So go be yourself.
I'll take care of the children. Go be away by yourself this weekend.
Yeah,
I got this.
I love it. The things you've said that are so key. And I'll start with the last one, which is basically about the intent. You said very important things. One is the intent of partnerships and how partnerships or the lack thereof of partnerships seep in and kind of rob women of being human beings and turn them into this person who's constantly in a rat race, and there's never time for you. So there's never time for you to just dream and to be seen as brilliant and to be seen as also an individual by yourself without being identified with the other, right? And then you've mentioned something very key, which is sharing labor, you know, and being aware of sharing labor, and that unpaid labor is a problem, you know. I wanted to curse, but we're in Baraza. It's a problem. And it's very unjust because it doesn't allow women to be able to understand or to just breathe in partnerships. Well, the idea of having a partner is so you can breathe, and then now you can't. Because now you have this extra person that you have to take care of, yet they're an adult who can actually help you in taking care of each other, right? So there's a dysfunction there of how partnerships work and what they're intended to do. And then you spoke about politics and how politics is so masculine. And as someone who has some kind of experience politically, I resonate. You know how when you tell someone a story and they just say same, that's really me right now, same, right? I understand very deeply what it means to be in a very high testosterone space with masculine conversations that are misogynistic and patriarchal and deeply condescending, always, all the time, to your existence. Because it's not even about you are brilliant or not, it's just about to your existence as a woman, you know. And I remember when I started doing media work, very intentional media work in 2017, and like and like you use activism to collate and bring people together, I use my political activism to free women, you know, and to free how women exist politically. So I remember going for TV interviews, and I would show up in my afro, and by then I was with a friend who's now not working in the station. And all the comments were not about my content or what I was saying. It was about, she's great. They would actually say, I agree with her, but tell her to comb her hair.
What?
Yeah. And they would tweet him. They would not even tweet me. They would tweet him and say, tell her to comb her hair. Right?
Wow.
Yes. And then I said, oh, this is the road we are going down on. Let's do this. Let's do the hair debate, because hair is political. Women's hair is political.
It's important to them.
Right. Then the next time I was on air, I went with very long box braids, very long. And they said, wow, is she a musician now?
Oh,
can she pick a side? Does she want to speak about politics? Does she want to become a politician or a musician? And then the next time I went, I had a head wrap. And then the next time I went, I had colored my hair. And then the next time I went, I had, I think I had flat twists, then I'd taken them out. So it was an afro, but it was a bit organized, but still very much in your face, right? It got to a point where all the people who were tuning in and talking about my hair stopped bothering about how I look, how I appeared, my lipstick, because my lipstick was also a problem. They asked if I'm an artist, as if being an artist is a problem. They asked if I was a model for politicians.
Wow.
Yes. They asked if I was in the political fashion show. Then it got to a place where they got tired.
They couldn't hear anything you were saying.
This is the thing. Because the idea is your authenticity is your activism. And if I'd lost that because of what people were saying, then the number of women that we now see, particularly young women who are in the space of politics, discussing politics and showing up as they are, would not happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for you to bringing out these pertinent issues and for just making us aware and reminding us that the bar is so low.
It's so low.
Particularly for men in society, because the entire society also doesn't uphold higher standards for men and demand for them to do better. And it's sad because it's costing women lives.
Yes.
It's costing women's existence. It's making their labor constantly invisible. It's making them exist as this thing we're talking about, as flower girls, as an accessory. He won, you know, like he won a woman lottery by having a beautiful woman. He won a woman lottery by having an intelligent woman. He won a woman lottery.
Trophy wife.
You see, right? So there's a broader conversation there, and I like that you took us there.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I like it.
Thank you.
I want to set some context. So Patricia Andago of Odipo Dev recently wrote an article about how the Kenyan news, particularly Kenya media, fails women. And you can attest to this.
Oh God,
I mean, I've just mentioned a bit.
Yes.
So she said, take a moment to think about what a typical Kenyan news consumer looks like. You're probably picturing a man, you know, because the content isn't very male.
Yeah.
Walking around with a newspaper under his armpit, jumping at every chance to discuss politics, you know, or a father in a home, reading the paper in the living room, with the radio blaring in the background and everyone else falling silent when the 9 p.m. news comes on. What you just mentioned, right? So it's very rare that you find that such a caricature will involve a woman. The traditional print media model revolves around this very idea, that this stereotype tells us a lot about how the nature of consumers in Kenya are. So decisions around this, when made, whether to engage in news and the people who are viewed, is gendered because it's seen as male. News is for men. News is made by men. News is mostly consistent of men.
Yes.
Have you seen this play out? And I think you've mentioned. And what are the implications? So now we're talking about the implications of this landscape, because we now acknowledge we've all seen it, we've experienced this. What are the implications, you know? Where are we losing or missing out in this exclusion? So by not having women, by not having an inclusive gender lens, what are we losing out? Can you paint that picture for us?
I think we have mentioned this in our conversation earlier. The fact that we don't know what women's spaces look like. And women are getting lost. Women don't know where to find help because who's talking about that? You will not find it in the media.
Yes.
You have to really look for it. Every the women's problems, even when you look for those solutions, you have to really look for them, right? Because issues that matter to women are on the side, are flower girl kind of things, are not important things. Because the main conversations, what's important is happening here. And here there are no women.
Yeah.
Women are napo, no koivo, in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had friends even who've come over, and then because I'm in the kitchen and, Boni is cooking, is making nyama on the other side, we're both doing stuff.
Yes.
But then the chicks will just find ourselves in the kitchen because that's where I am. I'm cutting fruits.
Yes.
I'm putting things out on the table. So that's
Looking
where
for
this
plates.
is happening in the kitchen.
Yes.
He'll come and ask for salt and marination and then they'll go to the other side. So there's a friend of mine who's very deliberate, and she gets so upset when she finds women in the kitchen. It's like, why are you guys in the kitchen? Me, I didn't come to sit in the kitchen. I'm like, no. So I have to move everyone from the kitchen.
Right.
But then they feel so guilty because I'm in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But I am the host.
Yes.
So then I have to make sure that I'm not in the kitchen for so long, because then the conversations that the men are having,
it's also very different.
Yeah, it's very different.
Yes.
And when we're all seated there, the back and forth is more dynamic. It's more enjoyable because I get to hear a point of view that we were not having in the kitchen.
Yeah.
We'll go and say, ask us in the kitchen, we were discussing this. And the men will say, but then we were discussing something here. What do you guys think about it? It's a whole new perspective. Right. So when you think about it that way, in every area in society, in different parts of this life that we're living, there are a lot of times and places where the women's voice are not heard.
Right.
The women's considerations are not put in, just like we talked before.
Yes.
Yeah. Things have been created without that in mind.
Yes.
If you had asked a woman, maybe the windows would have been lower. Yeah. Maybe they shouldn't have been a door. It should have been safer. Right. And larger.
Right.
It could have been brighter.
Right.
It could have been cheaper. I know a place where, and not cheaper for, I don't want to spend a lot of money. I just do know a place where actually this works better. I've seen this that is done this way, in a different way that looks better, and the lack of that, every time men sit together and make decisions without women, they can be so sure.
There's always a problem being created.
There's so much that they have not overlooked.
Yes.
They have a good idea, brilliant, but there's so much that they've overlooked.
Because the idea is not whole.
It's not whole. It's
not
representing.
Yes.
It's not representative of the end users.
It's a part of the whole.
Yeah. And men have, I think the way society has it, men walk with a sense of pride and completion that you can walk in there with your CV and just sit and say, this is what you can and can't do, or that you can do.
Bravado.
Me, I have a serious CV, and I'm still like, I don't even know. Sidani, because I don't have this and this.
Yes.
This man does not have 7 out of the 10. You don't have 3 out of the 10.
Or even just one.
Or one.
It's true.
Or even that one you have but not in full.
Yes.
This man has 7. Hana hizo 7 out of the 10. But the way he represents himself with such confidence, you with that 10, 9.5, you're thinking about that half.
You've self-disqualified.
You're already.
Oh my
you go in there defeated. You're like,
I
know I don't have this.
I can't relate.
And so I'm not sure, but I'll try. So there's a way that society upholds and supports men that it doesn't do for women. But who is society? Is it not you? Is it not me?
It is.
Right? I'm the one raising my children. I'm the one telling them what I'm telling them.
Right.
They are seeing me being who I am being and not being who I'm choosing not to be. And kids now, well, at least my kids, ask me some questions. I'm like, okay. I hadn't thought of that. Sometimes I say, let's Google it. Or I'll find out.
Let's make it a group project.
Yeah. Because I'm like, I really don't know.
Yeah.
Why is this like this? I'm like, I honestly, I've never thought about it.
And I think that's the thing, that we should be raising, and I'll go back to your point, but we should be raising children who are not afraid to think.
Yes.
Right?
And to think even differently.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
there's some things my daughter tells me and I'm like, wow. me, even the thought, I would think something like that, I would go and hide now.
You'd pack your,
because if my mom even thought I was thinking it,
yeah, you'd have to pack and leave yourself.
Yes,
you know.
But my daughter just asks, you know.
That's beautiful.
My kids just ask some questions, and I'm like,
that's beautiful.
I don't know. Let's find out. Let's find out together, because I honestly don't know. We will make a phone call. We will call dad. We will call a friend. We'll say, why is this? You know,
and that's necessary.
Then we will just discuss and agree. Maybe this is the reason.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's a good point.
Like
Maybe that's it. You know, so it has to be. We have to get ourselves into a place where men feel it is not complete. And it's not by bringing one chick into the room.
Absolutely.
It's bringing women in at the very initial stages.
Because also one woman is not a representation of all women.
No.
That's the thing, that one woman cannot represent a demographic. No. Because we are so different.
Exactly.
You know, we want different things.
Yeah. I want to ride.
Different dreams.
You are like,
I'm like, this is your life. Leave me here. You know, like safe journey, you see.
It's fine, I'll see you at 9.
Right? Like, come, I'll come with an Uber, you will come right in. But that's the thing of realizing that women have always been fundamentally human beings in full and in capacity of the way in which we think, we dream, we desire. Even biologically, we are different. Yeah. You don't assume that just because women are women and we kind of have similar body parts, that we are the same. We are not. We are very different.
It's true.
So that's why I love what you're saying about opening up. And men, because men wield social capital, they have to use that to open up social spaces for the diversity of women, so that we can have a woman who is queer in a space.
Yes.
We can have a woman who is trans. We can have a woman who is single. We can have a woman who is married. We can have a woman who is divorced. We can have a woman who says, marriage and me is like oil and water.
Because these men are like that as well.
Exactly.
Yes, why can't we be? And we don't walk into these spaces as that. I'm not coming here as a married woman. Because are you coming into the same space as a married man? Is that what qualifies you? Is that what qualifies you?
Right.
When we get there, what qualifies you to be in that space?
It's their full humanity.
So if you call me out as a married woman or as a single woman, then I want to know all the single men in the room, because you're calling me a single woman. If you're calling me a married woman, I want to know all the married men in the room.
The married people's corner.
Yes.
This is the thing.
Men and women. Don't just put women in these titles, rosy titles, because they're unserious and unappreciated, because that's what you've put them to be. Right? So I think the task is on both sides. It goes both ways. That we don't need to be trying to prove a point.
Yes.
We just need to occupy the space.
And if
unapologetically.
You said we move and create our own island.
If they will not let us be here, let's do this thing over here, because they will also see, hey, I'll tell you something. I'm a biker, right? Okay, we've talked about this. But there is, when we've had meetings, when women are in the meetings, the way things move is so different. Yet we're all bikers, right? But when the women are involved in some of these things, the outcome is wow.
Yeah.
And even the men will say, you know me, I really admire the way women operate, the women bikers operate. Because when women organize something, it is fully representative. We invite the men. We have thought of toilet breaks, proper toilet breaks. When the men organize,
of tissue paper in the toilet.
Yes, wanasimamanga kwa barabara. We're like, we can't stop over here. We need a loo.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So when you have that, and for me, that's one of the things I say. Anyway, the way we think is very different.
Right.
Us will decide we have to stop where we have to have lunch. Guys will just stop. Maybe some guys brought lunch, maybe no one did.
Yeah.
But in our planning, we'll say either bring lunch or we shall stop over, and this is how much you will need to have lunch, because that place is the amount you need to have. So that inclusion, men need to see that they're truly missing out by not having women in the space. So they need to be fighting to bring women into that space, because that good thing they have will be really good if they have women in that space. Agreed. And that goes everywhere. It cuts across.
Agreed. I love it. I think women are fantastic because women think of the whole. Like women think of the whole thing.
Yeah,
you know?
It's true.
And we don't leave. Someone will figure it out, because men are always falling back on. Someone will figure out there's no hand wash in this house and it will magically appear.
Yes, there's no toilet paper in the loose.
Anyway, in democracy now, in terms of losing women's voices and not having representation, how much do you think we lose as a democracy, and even just democracy as a theory, by not having women? Do you even have a democracy if so many lived experiences are completely invisible to the broader society? So like what you are saying, but on a national level where we are thinking of our ideology as a country, because we already know women are not in political spaces the way they should be and doing what they need to be doing, And if they're there, quote unquote, fall back to flower girls.
Yes.
So it means their opinions, their contribution, their thoughts, their labor, all of that brushed to the side. So as democracies, what do you think we lose? How much do you think we even lose? Are we even aware of it, And is it even possible now for us to talk about, we live in a democratic country anyway, while the majority of the population were actually women, and actually young women who were aged below, I think, 30, according to stats, are just nowhere to be seen. Like literally nowhere,
Wow. When you put it that way, do we really have democracy? Who is
the question? Yeah.
Who is we? Because that question, I feel like for me, it has taken us. Are you asking women or are you asking men? Because from where I sit, women, no, there's no democracy.
Right.
And in the sense that, first of all, we have not even been allowed into that space.
True.
And where we have been, it is what we were talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, the wife of an influential person, the daughter of, the auntie of, the mother of.
Yes.
It is always with reference to this guy.
Yes.
Okay. And so, again, we said that women are more than the men. So when you think about it, we're like talking about 60, 40%. Now this, don't crucify me on this one. I'm just speaking figures. Yeah. If the women are 60% and these men are 40%, and even in this 40%, they're not 100% all in with the democracy. So drop that maybe by half.
Yeah.
So who is we?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean, if you go slashing it that way, then you go to the 1%. Okay.
We're not there.
We are not there. Even in that 1%, we're not even 1%.
In the 1%.
In the 1%.
This is true.
Right? Not in how we are paid, not in representation.
Yes.
Not we're just not there.
Making,
yeah, we're
just
policy. Not there. And it looks like it's fashioned and deliberate. Yes. So when you ask me about democracy, what democracy? Who are you asking?
Yes.
Who is we?
Yeah.
Right?
Someone once said something funny and also scary in a meeting that I was once in, and they said, the Kenyan Constitution, when they say, we the people of this republic, they just fell shy of saying, we the men of this republic. Because clearly, a lot of this has been denied to women.
Yes.
Like even at the root of the Constitution, which is requiring a two-thirds agenda, it's been denied to women outrightly,
Yeah.
Because of the wrangles, because of the idea that we just don't see the value of women. We don't understand the implications of running a country that is not representative of its population.
Yeah.
Because you would wonder if majority of your household, if majority of your household is female, you know that you're going to spend money buying more female products in this household. So then you plan around that, So if we move that, and it's a very simplistic way of looking at it, and sometimes I think we have to just make things overly simplified so we can see how we are stuck in the mud. So then if the country is a household, you have more women, you have more young women.
Yes. Yes.
But yet, even things like affordable, accessible, quality sanitary product is not your concern. Even things like safe houses, because now there's a report that says in 2020, gender-based violence increased by 92%.
Oh, wow.
92%.
That's a lot.
Isn't that a stark figure?
Yeah.
But then your priority is like, wow, flowers and vibes, you know? You see what I mean? Like when you simplify it, you wonder, like, let's do have a household of toddlers.
Should we put more VAT
or
alcohol?
Right? Like, shouldn't your priority be now girls who are being preyed upon by family members? Shouldn't be your priority be around education policies that are gender progressive? Shouldn't how we think about our economic recovery, if we are even going to economically recover the pandemic, be about figuring out gender inclusive? Because the thing about women and in spaces of work, particularly in formal spaces of work, is when it comes to a pandemic, women are the first to be let go and will be the last to be hired.
Yeah.
You see?
That's true.
So like when we don't think around these things, then it, like you wonder truly, do we have a democracy?
No.
So then who are the people of Kenya?
Who are we?
Who are we?
Yeah.
You know?
So when we enjoin ourselves with that we, I'm like,
I mean, for us, we are just
we're
cheerleaders
doing
of the
ourselves.
we.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. You know, as you were speaking, I was thinking about, do you know any female OCS?
These are questions.
Like where and in the stations that they are in, how do they perform vis-a-vis these other stations where the men are OCSs?
Exactly.
And how many I don't know how many there would be, but...
And if you find them, I know you'll probably find them. I really do, because also Kenya is that country that will shock you, that there are people doing absolutely phenomenal things, but we'll never get to hear them, right?
Exactly.
Because when they're women, I mean, women are expected to do phenomenal things, I mean. And then also because, oh my God, like, let's just focus on this other thing, this other one, why does this matter, right? And that you can always see, it's very clear, like the difference between how leadership manifests in female and women's bodies is very different. The way leadership manifests in men's bodies and men's psyche and the way they understand leadership is very different, you know? So even the thing you're talking about where your friends would want to come to the kitchen because you're the one hosting and they want, it's a thing of, how do we still bring her?
Yes.
It's all of us thinking of the whole.
Can we all be in the kitchen?
This
or
is
can we all be outside?
Right? Because women are raised, as young girls, we are raised to think of the whole.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
This is the problem, that we are raised to think of the whole, while our counterparts, quote unquote, are raised to think of just their part, you know, or part of the whole. So then you have a woman, so you have a young girl who grows up to be a young lady, grows up to be a young woman, and then sees the world as a place where she should go and do things for others and to serve and to cater to and to put other people first. But then your alleged partner is the person who thinks of, how do I consume this space? How do I do this for me? How do I dream this dream for me? How do I move like this? Because this other person has been raised as a support.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, that's
and
true.
they will see all the moving parts of the whole, but I only have to think of a part of the whole. There's a dysfunction.
Without an appreciation of that.
None at all.
Like, I see your contribution. We are stronger together. But no, I am strong. We're not stronger together. I don't know about us. But I am strong.
That is a good way to jump into this question. And it's called the cost of freedoms of dreams. Isn't it just nostalgic and all the things?
Oh, cost of freedom. Are we going there?
We are. We really are. But I'm gentle. We'll go together. So something that stood out when watching the film Softie is just how much and how many women did the work, carried the load, and were the unsung laborers and heroines of Boniface Mwangi's campaign. There's just so much invisible work that was going on. And I know you have tons of experience in this, and you can jump back and forth. So I'm wrestling with what this means to be a person of vision, particularly in your case, to be a person of vision, convictions, dreams for a better country, and how many of those dreams are underwritten by women or by people doing invisible labor. How can we recognize this cost better? And what do we see? And what do we do once we see it? So then I'll break it down easily. Because there's a lot of invisible labor that we acknowledge, that we agree that exists as regards Softie film. So then now the question is wondering, what was the cost of that, if there is any, particularly for you, as someone who is very key and plays a very key role in Softy, like without you being the other part of the whole, it couldn't be told, right? And also if you're comfortable sharing, what was the cost of that, of the invisible work you did?
I think, wow. First, I was not at home during the campaign.
I remember.
That's a whole other conversation there.
I remember.
But that campaign was upheld by women.
Yes.
I could almost say 100%. This is where we have the 1%.
Yeah.
But in this case, the 1% was the men.
Yes.
And they were the support. They were playing the supporting role. And they worked tirelessly. And when I say tirelessly, I mean they were in the house, our house, at 7 a.m. All of them on their phones calling people about Boni's manifesto, about what he wanted to do, raising issues, finding out if they're registered, where to go and vote, what do you need, answering questions. And it was a 6 months period, right? Now, when I go to how much money was contributed, we did not say how much money was contributed by who, men or women, but we received a lot of money. Again, that helped this 6 month, 7 month, campaign process.
Yeah.
And it was like a wheel. They would come in, they knew who was cooking, who's cleaning, the calls that needed to be made, the house needed to be left clean at the end of the day, and then they'd come and do it all over again.
Yeah.
And it was their own belief that if Ukweli Party, Boniface Mwangi got into Starehe, this is what was going to change.
Right.
They were not talking about Boni as a popular guy, Ulemse. Yeah. They were talking of their own issues, and they would be the ones that would be working to ensure that those things come to life. They're implemented. And they're the ones that called and talked to people to tell them about their issues. So whoever you vote for, hata ukikataa, ni sawa, you just make sure that the person you vote for is like this, or is able to do this for you, or even has said can do these things for you. And they made 90,000 calls, right? And about half of them said they were going to vote. Half of them said, oh, we're not registered in Starehe, but if I was in Starehe, I would vote. Or if I would vote for Boni, even though I'm not in Starehe, ni vote kule na vote, lakini ni vote Boni Starehe.
Right.
And it was that gave life to the campaign. Not because of what people said, but because of what the women, the ladies were saying, the conversations that they were having. I think all the people that received calls were very grateful to have been engaged in this kind of campaign. It hasn't been done before, not in this country. And I think it poses a challenge into the future and even into the way we think of our leadership. Yeah? What are you saying you will do?
Right.
Have you been in this position or a position similar? And how did you use that position, right? It brought people to a place where actually this guy has been in office, maybe not this particular office, but he's been, here. I can see them, but I can't see their fingerprint. I can't see any work. I can't see that because they were in office. There's no evidence.
Right.
I've just been seeing you around, but it's still I can't say what you've done. But yet, so I need to vote for someone who says they can do something and I can hold them accountable to that thing they said they would do. Yeah. And I can see that they're not moving by themselves. Okay. So for me, the aspect of, there's a book called Women Hold Half the Sky Up.
Yes.
Because we literally hold it up.
Yes.
Then the sky shines and, the sun rises and you see the stars and the moon. But, now it's metaphorical, of course, but when you think about it, it's the work that women do, the unrecognized work, the one, half the time, it's not stuff that you can say, this is how much I would pay for it. It is invaluable. Yeah, because remove that sky falls.
Yes.
Remove that, then what are you left with? It's a shell. It can't hold itself together.
Right.
Yeah. And like I said, and I've said many times, it's the mothers, it's the sisters, it's the colleagues. Yeah.
Right.
It's very close relationships.
Right.
But also it's the refreshing energy that is this, a way that women see things. And like you said, I like what you called it, a lens. The way the lens through which women see the world is not the same as the one that men see through. Right. And so when you think about how life can be if more women, if we all came in where one man's lens, because I need to see the man's perspective. Let's not lose the man's perspective. We are in this world together. Yeah, we are creating this world and a better future together.
Right.
Because I have sons, right? I will be living with my husband later when we are old. The way he sees things, what he needs, is not exactly the same way I see things, and it's not what I will need later in life.
Exactly.
And at this point, even now, we need different things. Then we also need similar things.
Right.
Yeah. So if we walk together like that and support each other, I see what you need. Just pull this out, you'll be fine. Oh, yeah. The same way they say you pull out a log from another person's eye before you remove yours. So you remove yours, then I help you remove yours.
Right.
So we walk together hand in hand. And where we're tired, where yours is heavier, we help lift. I wachana with mine, tunainua hii yako, hii ni mzito.
I agree.
It's like a car.
I agree.
When it's stuck, we pull it out of the hole, then we continue with the journey.
Agreed.
Yeah. So we need to find ways that we can move forward together without minimizing the other's contribution. And the other here is women's contribution because it is critical.
Agreed.
I dare you to do what you think you want to do without the women.
Yeah, do not work.
And then let's have this conversation and see how it went.
Agreed.
And the same one, I dare you to bring women into that thing that you're doing and tell me how it goes so we can compare the two.
I want to take you somewhere for like a quick 3 minutes. There's a part in the film, Softy, where you said, I don't know if you are in the country or you are away, but you said, I am a full person, but even when I'm standing next to him, and I think you're referring to your partner, people just see Bonnie's wife, right? People don't see you for you. People don't think you exist as a person for you. And there's a way you said it that for me, I have always wanted to ask you to tell us about that moment, if you can, and to share what you want people to see and know about Njeri out of the frame of Bonnie's wife.
Oh, wow. It must have been, and yeah, I think it must have been, I did say that when people look at me, first they see Bonnie, then they see her, then she's there. They don't even call me by name.
You're right.
It's Bonnie's wife.
Yes.
And even my friends, some of them have said, that's Bonnie's wife.
Yeah.
And that's the end. That introduction is complete.
Yes.
And then the realization of those I've been introduced to like that. Like, oh, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And it leaves me wondering, what have you known about me? Like, do you now know who I am?
Yes.
Because of that introduction.
Right.
Yeah. And it's unfair because if you take Bonnie away, if I call myself Njeri, then that's it.
Yeah.
If I say I'm an activist and co-founder at Power,
yes,
then you start to say, oh, wife, you're Bonnie. And I'm like, you cannot see me without that lens.
Right.
And that's not right.
Yeah.
And that goes for a lot of women who stand beside powerful, influential men.
Right.
But then they're not regarded in their own right. You don't stand tall. And not because you're not standing there.
I know.
You're right there, you're fully there.
Yeah.
But
you're holding your
wife.
own.
Yes.
You're,
but
you're even probably doing 70% of the work.
Yes.
But you're still just.
And I think
wife.
people need to see and appreciate that man you see there, especially with his wife there, respect them in the same way.
Absolutely.
Because whatever you're counting the cost of this man, this woman's is so much more.
Yes. The cost is probably double for you.
Is more.
Yeah.
Because we still have to go home and then put on the
all
aprons and all those things.
Yes.
And then, you're on a temperature, hakuna dawa, all those things. We still have to do all that. Yeah. So when you see a man, know that, have the same regard, have the same respect for this woman, not because she lives with this man,
yes,
not because she works with this man, not because she's married or she's fathered or whatever it is with this man, but because these achievements of this man, same achievements for this woman.
Absolutely, probably more.
Yeah, it's only that my CV cannot tell you I did all those things that have been said are women things. I cook and clean and all that.
Agreed.
Yeah, but this man can't even say that because he doesn't. So maybe we need to be able to write in our CVs that I cook, clean, and I'm a doctor in my house. I'm the seamstress. I do all these things in my house.
You're a fashion advisor?
Yes, in my house, because my husband cannot have that CV.
Yes.
Okay? He can't write the things I would write in my CV.
That's so
and
funny.
Maybe they need to count for something as well. Yeah? If you tell me that that's what you do, if you tell me how shonangi, I'll be like, you can't shona? You should learn because it will help you. I can see all these other skills, but this job, we need someone who can also shona, and that's why you're not getting this job.
I love it.
You know?
Cool. You said two great things. One, we should acknowledge contribution of women, particularly women that are doing work that is invisible because we are just not making the effort to see it.
Yeah.
And then also acknowledging and according women, particularly women who stand behind big charismatic men who do public-facing work, their own respect because they are people.
Yes.
You know, they are people first. They do a lot of background work that we don't know about. And because of that, they deserve respect. So those are very important things.
Yeah.
On to the fun question. So because we all know this work is heavy and brutal and thankless and endless and tiring and all the other things we can do, we can call it. What are your practices for cultivating joy?
This year, I've heard so much about yoga.
Are you starting a YouTube channel?
This year, no, I'm not. There are too many out there, which I'm actually using one.
Nice.
I started doing yoga.
Nice.
Yeah, and I find
that's so cool.
Even my kids know when they find me doing yoga, I don't do it for an hour, Sidri. I do it daily.
Yeah.
And I do it for 10 to 15 minutes.
That's good.
And I do it in the morning. It's about that discipline. It's about the consistency. But it's also just puts me in a space where I feel refilled. I feel refreshed. And I'm ready to take on the day. You know, those breathing practices, I used to hear breathe. I'm like, come on, guys. What does breathing mean? You think I got here how?
Yeah, I've been breathing.
All this life, all these years of my life.
They've been air moving.
That's how. So maybe use another word, but I've been breathing. But I came to understand what breathing means, because I find myself better tempered. Not that I was ill-tempered and sparky and all, but I find myself
more aligned.
Even more. Yeah, you'll really have to push much harder to get a certain reaction from me. By the time you're getting that reaction, anyway, you're here in my nose. Yeah. And so that for me, I think has been my one thing this year that I have found
I love it.
A sense of it's my thing.
It gives you agency.
Yeah. And then also just being one with nature. You can learn so much from nature.
Have you become a plant mom?
I'm working on it. I've planted a lot. We've planted a lot of trees in a plot that we bought some time back. So we've had a lot of, I can't believe you haven't come here. You should. So yeah, that just being one with nature, feeling the win, because it's not out to hurt you. Yeah? And then it reminds me that if we don't take care of our nature, it's going to be a problem.
Love it.
And we are having problems as it is.
In fact, now that you mentioned discipline, Mariame Kaba says hope is a discipline, right? How do you respond to this framing of hope being something you discipline yourself into?
Of hope?
Yes, being something you discipline yourself into. And also just what makes you hopeful?
Wow, that's an easy question for me. My children make me so hopeful. Because, and when I say my children, I think it's a whole generation.
So they are so delightful.
They are representing of a whole generation of children. So my children are so eager. They're so happy. They're so excited. They're so
ready.
Not corrupted by all the things that this world has become.
They're not pessimistic yet.
They're not. And it makes me want to make sure that their dream actually comes to life. Like, you get that thing, you can do it.
Yeah.
Maybe they could get it, but I also it helps me think why I need to keep doing what I'm doing, why it's important, because I want to have something to give my children. Yeah, and say, here, hapa ndio tumefikisha, nimejenga mpaka hapa.
Yeah.
You can take it from here
and
pick
it take it.
Wherever. It's limitless.
Yeah.
But then I can't give up, because if I give up, I cannot look at my children. Because what am I going to say to them?
True.
So my children fill me with hope.
And they'll ask you hard questions.
And they will ask me hard questions. Yeah.
So can we concretely say you are practicing hope by feeding all of this life that you're generating for yourself into these wonderful babies?
Yes.
I love it.
When people say, oh, sijui legacy, I'm like, that's a big thing. But I'm like, if my children at this point, among other things, would be my legacy, because I've poured my life into them. And it's not for pressure, they have to go and become what I have told them, what I have dreamed for them. It's that they have the discipline, they have the courage to do the things that they want to do, the things that they dream to do. Yeah, and not be afraid to make mistakes.
Right.
Yeah, because it's in making these mistakes that we've learned and are learning continually. Some mistakes we've made them too late. We should have made them when we were younger.
It's very unnecessary.
Yeah, and all the it's like falling and breaking your leg right now. Imagine vunja ukiwa mtoi, your bones heal faster.
Right now, even just looking at you like this too much, I have to go and figure out.
Careful now.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Njeri. Thank you so much for such a wonderful conversation. I think I could talk to you forever. Do you have time to take questions? We do. Okay. Great. Wow. Interesting. Thank you for everyone who's sending questions. Amina Sui, is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. But Amina Sui is saying, loving the discussion. A quick question. Read gender roles. How have you managed to have these conversations with older women in your family? Are they embracing the half responsibility for men and women? I believe we also need to start having these conversations with older women in our lives, i.e. our moms, our grandmas, and our aunties.
Hey, that's
I'll
a
let
hard
you
one.
start. Or should I start at the end? But you start.
That's a hard one. I can't say that, I am having these conversations with older women in my family.
Right.
And it will be my sisters and it's my mom.
Yes.
And I can see the look on their faces for, hey, what?
Are you saying this?
Because when you go to family and you're told that men should be served, you can't eat before your husband. I'm like, but I can. Why can't I?
But I was hungry first.
Yeah, because I'm hungrier. I came to get the food. He's there because maybe he's not feeling very hungry. Plus the food is right here. It's not like he's going to cook it, right? So I leave it. I'm leaving it. And my daughter will ask, and she gets very upset when I have to go to the kitchen and then my husband asks, Suni, let her food. And my daughter says, Daddy, why can't you get it yourself?
Truly?
Yeah. And she's not trying to be, trouble child.
Yeah.
She's asking a genuine question.
Yes.
And the dad says, no reason, I'm requesting. He says, oh, I thought you wanted it by force. So I'm leaving it, and that's how I'm having it with the younger generation, with the girls who are around me. But with the older women also, while living it and while being questioned about it, and having a response for it. And saying, hapana, hata mimi nimechoka.
Yeah.
being respectful, because if I can't be respectful, then they can't hear it.
Yes.
Yeah. And knowing that they may not change anything about it, but I have chosen to change, and I am living it.
And it matters. I think practice matters.
Yeah.
Particularly when it comes to talking about half and half. I think also the idea of half and half responsibility between men and women, it has to exist within context.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, also.
Because also the idea of doing half and half, and I will use a very literal example. If I'm earning 1,000 and you're my husband, and you're preferably male in this context, because we're talking about the male gender, and you're earning 500, right? And then we talk about half and half. Automatically, it will be seen. It will be very clear. We won't mince words. It will be very clear that, the woman is earning more, she needs to do more, right? But then when it's switched, there's something funny that happens, that when men earn more and women earn not as close to what they earn, then they can weaponize gender and say, but aren't you the ones who are talking about gender equality and whatever? Why don't you do half, right? Yet you earn more. So I think the idea of half and half in terms of responsibility, accountability, and how you tangibly practice it has to exist within context. Because you can't expect a woman who has less to do more with what?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you can only give what you have, literally. Like, literally. This is not even metaphorical, right? So then expecting half from someone who's getting less, and that's why women talk about pay us well, pay us what we deserve, pay us our worth, so we can do more, because we can. We've been holding economies for centuries with the little that we are fighting with. Imagine if you gave women the money they deserve, how much more we'd be able to do, right? So I think that's an interesting conversation that should be had. And then also the conversation of talking about gender roles with our moms and grandma. It's necessary. And the caveat is also understanding that the generation that my mom was, and the generation that she raised, so me, and the generation I'm going to raise my nieces and nephews now, these people exist in slightly different contexts. There are things that cut across, right? But the stuff that we are we've carried forward, and we keep giving other people the baton, you know. So even when we are trying to unlearn misogyny and trying to make the world better and more equal and safer for women, but there's always that sprinkle of patriarchy and violence and entitlement and toxic masculinity that we still give as a baton. Take this little misogyny and go with, you see, instead of completely abolishing it. Because we've seen that conversation that you'll have with your grandmother, your mother, your aunties, and then now with women in your circle, will align in one way and tell you, women were always afraid. Even my grandmother was afraid, but she was afraid differently. And she was afraid at a different time. Right? And then my mother is afraid, even now. And she's afraid differently. And she's afraid for different reasons. And I'm afraid. And I'm afraid for different things. And I'm afraid for different reasons. But what is constant is women are afraid.
You're afraid.
Do you see? So there's that we have to understand of context. So that's a lovely question. I'll take another one. Oh, wow, this is nice. Are our current women leaders using their positions to champion for women affairs? To me, the answer is no.
Actually, those three questions.
Those two questions are just connected, The answer is no. What should we do to encourage them to do this? And then the question that links to it, are the current women leaders role models to young women in the country? And then do the women leaders do more than what is acknowledged by the media?
Now, that's a good question.
That's a good question.
Because again, like we said, media is by men, for men, about men.
Yes.
So who's telling the news of what women are doing, accomplishing?
Yes.
We will hear about them when they misbehave. Oh, Sijui, who did what where? It is in the news.
Absolutely.
But we're not hearing about women leaders specifically, doing amazing work.
And they are there.
And they are. So the media, and I think you said something about it, the media has failed women.
Very much.
It continues to fail women.
Right.
Because the stories that are told of women are not of progression. They're not of strength, they're not of power. And when they're of strength, is they have endured and survived a man. Yeah, a man's
or a situation.
Yes.
Or a system.
Yeah, something like that. So it's not a woman who is existing, providing that kind of leadership, and let's stand in awe and acknowledgement of what her contribution to community
like even
is.
Someone like you, and I like using examples that people can relate to. Beyond you being a fantastic journalist, oh my God, beyond it being a great writer, we are yet to read your books, please. I am ready.
Soon.
I'm ready to be your influencer. Beyond you being a wonderful, like brain and fuel and energy for power, the stories that will be told about you in media
will
not be about those.
No.
So yeah, you know?
Yeah.
And it's with every woman who's fantastical and magical and doing things, because it is the lens.
Yeah.
You know, it is the person behind the lens. It is what they choose to see. It is the story they choose to tell. And it is always the easiest story. And it is always the acceptable story, because media still chooses to tell stories of victimization, of glorification of struggle, of women being gold diggers, of women, I don't know, slave queens, of women who are sleeping their way to the top. But not the women who are actually telling you that the system is already broken. That's why all of these things exist, you know? It's a story of blaming a woman who's been pushed off of 12th floor because she said no, you know? And by using that as a way to advise other women and say, oh my God, women shouldn't be available. And I'm like a 3-year-old, like an infant who's violated. Were they available? See, these are the questions. So yes, media has failed women. Are women leaders doing more and should be role models for young women? I think the current women leaders should not just be role models for women. Women leaders should be role models for everyone in society. Women are not just leaders for women. They're leaders of both men and women, because I don't think the same question is asked of men, because it's already a given that you're a man, you're a leader, then you're a role model, generally, right? But then for a woman, it's like, oh my God, girls will be so grateful. Yes, they will, and I'm not belittling that. But I think it is moving away from the trope of women just being leaders for women and for girls.
That's true.
And then looking at men as leaders for both women and men. So that's I think it's a dangerous framing, and then it keeps us locked into thinking that women can only lead because they're talking about periods and bras and relationships and girl child, and that women can't engage in economy, can't engage in policy, can't do lead organizations, can't front bills that are progressive, you know, can't be presidents, things like those. So framings matter. I think context matters. Are women leaders doing more? I think yes and no. And I think yes and no.
You didn't read the question because you answered it and people may not know what to. The question is, do women leaders do more than what is acknowledged by media?
And that's the one we've answered. Then there's a previous one that asked if women leaders are doing more in terms of a current women positions of power campaigning for more. Yes, like are they doing more? I think the answer is difficult, because it is fast, like I said, everything has to exist in context. For example, women representative position. A women rep is an MP, they're just female. They run a whole constituency. But an MP, because they go to parliament and they sit in parliament, they first have an actual structure in which they operate, which means they have funds that allow them to operate within a constituency. Women reps didn't have this, and I don't think they have it now. So then you have someone who doesn't have a structure, doesn't have the funding, doesn't have the backup not just societal, but also political. They don't have finances, but they're expected to perform. You see, then they perform the same way the man is supposed to perform. And if they don't, flower girl. See what I mean?
And they're not doing well.
Exactly. So it is understanding in which context are women leaders working. And is that context enough to allow them to thrive and work at optimum? Because it's one thing being a woman leader, and then it's another thing being a woman leader in a broken system, where you will be swallowed whole, like you said, right? So there's the fact that we have to understand context, and we have to understand that women lead everyone, and it's not, they're not leading just for people who have the same anatomy as them. So yeah, I guess those are the only questions we have. Right? So on to wrapping up, I wanted to just do a break off into like us is talking about something very quickly that I think you would resonate with, which is first appreciating your time, being here,
Thank you.
speaking so kindly and so candidly about yourself and your journey and how hard it is. I know how hard it is, and I think I can't even imagine how hard it has been for you, because you have been the beast, you know,
You keep calling
that
me
we are
that.
all just running around. And that conversations like this, where women sit and talk about how they exist and how they're positioned in the world, in a world that is political, in a world that is socially biased, in a world that is socially violent, in a world that is economically unjust and unequal, are necessary. And that there are women, because we're talking about women, and that there are women who have fought for these spaces, and have opened these doors, and have made sure these conversations are happening.
Yes.
And one of those women is my very good friend, Lorna Irungu, whom I call my Lorna, as someone who pushed, opened doors, literally made sure that we are here talking about these things, you know. So not just in honor of her, because I don't think we can ever honor Lorna, but just in a way to remind ourselves that Lorna has always been the person, and will always be the person, who championed for women to speak actively, visibly, you know, courageously, boldly, in an uncensored manner about how they are in the world and what their challenges are. And I wanted to know what your thoughts are about us being here and standing on the shoulders of actual true giants, you know, and what this moment means. Because for me, it's just immense gratitude and acknowledgement of having Lorna open doors for people like myself, and remind us that our story matters, and that representation matters, and that there can only be one Njeri, and that we have to listen to that Njeri, you know, and we can't take another one and say, you tell us what all the Njeris think, you know.
That's true.
So yeah, before we wrap up, and tell everyone thank you for tuning in.
For me as well, Lorna was a very good friend, and she would tell me, just be yourself. You're Boni's wife, and there's you, and those are two different people. And if you call me a beast, it's because I was standing on the shoulders of people like Lorna, and people who, when you think about someone standing on your shoulders and they're heavy or whatever it is, is like trying to stay balanced. And Lorna kept that balance for me sometimes. When she'd say no, just be confident, like stand tall, stand whole, don't stoop, don't be behind, stand beside, and stand in your own fullness. So for her to have enabled me to even think of myself that way, to see myself that way, and I know it was not just me, it's you and so many other people. And these spaces, creating these spaces, opening them up, and enabling someone like me to come and talk about my life, and the women who are listening, seeing themselves and hearing themselves in us as we speak. They see themselves in you, they see themselves in me, and they feel represented and they feel validated, and they're able to be more confident in their lives. So I truly, truly deeply appreciate even just the invitation by itself to be here. And that I do not take it for granted that I am able to speak about it. Because you could have invited me and I said, I can't. I can't. And it's helping us to lose those veils, to find our voices, to find the words, to embrace ourselves, who we are, what we've brought, what we bring, what we've been through, that makes, because we are here. When we started, you joked about it and said, so we're here. And we are here. Right? And we want more people, more women to step out, to step up. Not out of pressure, but because you need to occupy your spaces. You need to occupy your spaces in those offices. You need to occupy your spaces even in those homes. You need to occupy your spaces because you matter and you make a difference, a very huge difference. Without you, things would be so different. And they will continue to be unless we occupy those spaces.
Agreed.
Njeri,
you're wonderful.
Thank you.
And you're a beast.
You're my beast.
Keep being a beast, because you're wonderful. And I think people need to know more of who you are. only if they deserve it also. Yeah,
I don't know.
You know, like, because I know you've come from a place where only you know, like you and your little diary in your corner.
Oh gosh,
you know, when you're silencing the demons and fighting the imposter syndrome and you're second guessing yourself.
Yes.
So thank you for being here. Thank you to Baraza for hosting this wonderful conversation, and I hope to see you on the next Baraza session. Please tune in for more. Please share, continue sharing. Tell your peoples to tell their peoples that Baraza has awesome sessions where women come and talk about everything wonderful about life, about politics, about how to make better countries. And see you next time.